here.
Yeah.
You're going to the front side. Oh, I can speak to the lower one.
No, speak to the higher one. All right, we're good to go.
Hello. Thanks for joining us. My name's Jennifer. This is my husband, Michael, and we're here at Black Hills Vinyl. We're excited to partner with the Cave Collective and the Verb storytelling. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, for tonight's
yep.
story and song series. It's a fantastic thing you guys have going on. Unfortunately, we can't have live shows because it just isn't safe at this point, but we're doing what we can to join with them and have a safe music experience for everyone. We've been long-term supporters and patrons of the Cave Collective. What they do is absolutely fantastic, and we've been a part of the music scene here at Black Hills Vinyl basically since we moved to Rapid City. And our shows may have gone away here in the store generally, but we are so excited to have live music here at Black Hills Vinyl, downtown Rapid City again. We both love music, and we love live music, and we're happy to be part of this, and really excited for Josh Shepperd to come up here and do his thing. So without further ado, we got Josh Shepperd on his way.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's all right. You stand it here. It'll live.
Some more of your water. I'll go get you another one.
Thank you. Hello? Oh, all right. As introduced, yeah, I'm Josh Shepperd. Let me wipe a little of this water off. It's always fun. Live shows are, it's always something comes up. So you just got to go with the flow. But no, yeah, I want to thank the Cave Collective and Black Hills Vinyl for inviting me to do this series. I'm really excited about it. When Dexter, who I'm friends with, asked me if I wanted to do this and gave me a couple of dates, I'm like, oh yeah, here, I'll take November 8th. That sounds good. That works good with my schedule. And he's like, lucky dog, that's going to be at Black Hills Vinyl. I'm like, yeah, that's one of the my favorite places in town. I come here often, buy some records, and I've just started actually as a record collector probably in the last 2 years. I got a record player for my birthday, and so I come in here every once in a while and pick up some new and used stuff. It's a great place. You can find lots of good stuff here. But for those of you who don't know, like I said, my name's Josh Shepperd. I'm originally from Arkansas, but I moved up here about a little over 6 years ago. I've played music my entire life. From when I was a little kid, my dad played guitar and played really anything with strings, and my dad's side of the family played, so I kind of grew up with that kind of culture. There's mostly a lot of like bluegrass and gospel music and stuff like that. And it probably wasn't till I was about 15 that I got serious about playing, and I started playing in bands and everything. And that's when I met a friend, Adam Faucett, which is still a talented musician. If you get a chance, check out his stuff. And in high school and then in college, formed this band called Taught the Rabbits, and so we played a good bit. But then kind of through, like a lot of people, had a few traumatic experiences and things that come up in your life, and I kind of got out of music for a long time. And actually for 16 years, I didn't really play besides playing my acoustic guitar, maybe on my couch. And it was really just shy of about 2 years, I decided like I'm going to start playing again. I had been, adulting and working and, kind of living a religious life. And it just really wasn't working. Through a lot of change and everything, I kind of found that music really gave me a lot of meaning. It's one of the things, like, through music and the relationships that I have through that is really what's kind of really brought me through a lot of stuff. So it was really about 2 years ago that I started playing again. and writing songs really for the first time in my life. Even though I was in bands, I never wrote music and sang. I'm kind of self-conscious about my voice and songwriting. I don't, so it was about 2 years ago I started writing a little bit, and it was really being invited like to the Cave Collective. I met these guys, and I had like 2 or 3 songs that I'd written, and they're like, hey, would you like to play? I think, you could play. And I'm like, yeah, I need some more material. So I had to write a couple of songs and like play a show. And that's really what started me on this kind of journey. It's really been here just in the last 2 years. And I'm kind of a hopeless romantic in that, not in like the lovesick kind of puppy way, but in that I like pretty words spoken by articulate people. And so that's what I wanted to start, like, if I'm not good enough, I thought I could read something that maybe sets the mood, that if nothing else, you can take this way. And this kind of like leads into the first 2 songs that I want to play. The first song that I'm going to play is the first song that I've ever written, like I said, just shy of 2 years ago, that I ever finished. I'd written music before, but I've never written like a full song. And it's kind of based on some memories of the summer that I met my wife, and like looking back with fond memories about that. And so this is a Shakespeare sonnet that says, when to the sessions of sweet silent thought I summon up remembrance of things past, I sighed the lack of many a thing I sought, and with old woes knew well my dear time's waste. Then can I drown an eye unused to flow for precious friends hid in the death's dateless nights, and weep afresh love's long silence cancelled woe, and moaneth expense of my vanished sight. Then can I grieve at grievance foregone, and heavily from woe to woe tell o'er the sad account of fore-bemoaned moan, which I knew pay as if not paid before. But if while I think on thee, dear friend, all losses are restored and sorrows end. So this is called Lazy Afternoons. Sonic loves my eyes, little time to dream, for you by my side. My room was messy, your hair was short. I tried to find a voice, you tried to find your sport. Fast as we could be misunderstood, we lied to each other. Oh, youth and fervor, care for each other. Lazy afternoons spent with you. spent with you. Thank you. This next song is called Sidewalks, and it kind of goes along with that. These are kind of like little glimpses from youth of the past that I kind of reflect on. Late at night, we were moving fast to avoid a fight, like a bullet from a gun or a pillow stained in blood. We've got to act so fast without really thinking. That's the way things are with you when you are young. All night long, with no place to go, just our favorite songs. We were two kids in the dark, looking to make our mark. We had to try so hard, all while knowing nothing. That's the way things are when you are young. Trying to find a quiet place that I can call mine. Oh, it's harder to find when everything I had fucking gone. Choices I made wrong, it's the sin of you still holding strong, like a lover in your bed or the gun up to your head. Don't you feel for real everything with passion? That's the way things are with you when you are young. The spark, it's the only thing left to fight off the dark that's coming like a tide, like a monster trying to hide. Well, don't believe the lies that your mom will tell you. You're your own worst enemy when you are young. Cool. So I know it's been a hard year for a lot of people through politics and COVID and, well, a lot of things. Like I lost my dad this year, so it's been a tough year, I know, for everyone. So that's the next song. It's called Silent Tongue, and it's kind of a little bit about that. And but it's kind of like a word for encouragement that I think it was Kant that said, he had an analogy that he was talking about, that a dove in flight can imagine that if it wasn't for this wind, that he could fly a lot harder, a lot higher, and a lot faster. But the dove didn't realize like it was the very resistance of the wind that was uplifting them. And so I hope we can take that like as a message that, you know, in this life there's a lot of struggles and a lot of suffering. But that's not the only thing there is. There's also love and joy and friendship. And I just would like to say, like, you know, to take this adversity as a challenge to make us better and stronger. And so this next one's called Silent Tongue.
Crossing the skies with murder. I love whose eyes I'm crying, but just getting by this year. Riot, panic, fear meets silence. The poet's ears I'm trying, but just getting this year. Thoughts aloud with a quiet tongue, watching people following the sun this year. Ooh, you gotta know, you gotta show. Heavy is the head that knows which way the crowd is gonna go in this life. This life. Well, the days are passing oh so slow, and lucid dreams fall like quiet snow. I'm watching windows closing time this year. Thoughts aloud with a silent tongue, watching people following the sun this year. Ooh.
It's a little funny playing some of these songs. Like I'm in a band called Modern Folklore with Dexter, who's helped running this story and song series. And I miss his guitar parts, and it helps make it better. The next song I wanted to do, it's called Test Song Number 2, and it's kind of about, well, it's a song that's kind of, the meaning has changed. Originally it was about a friend and about the choices they made and trying to understand that, but then, and it was about that, about 2 weeks after I wrote this song, my dad passed away, and it kind of completely changed the meaning. It was kind of like more about talking to myself, like, are you going to be up for this? And so I'll do this song.
I watched you fall when you had a taste of it all. Then the world said, I'm gonna test you, bet I'm gonna best you again. You cut ties so fast, I knew it wouldn't last. Tried to forget it, world wouldn't let it go. Sometimes we're just lost, all have to bear the cost in some way. Death's gonna catch you, here we have nothing remain. So hold what you can, just know that it won't stand. Time never stopped a minute for anything. Oh, I don't wanna fall. No, I don't wanna fall. No, I don't wanna fall again.
All right. This next song, well, there's another quote that I was thinking about, which I don't know, I was thinking about getting about later, but that, well, it's a little bit about overcoming and everything, but it's a quote by Chesterton that he talks about, G.K. Chesterton, and he talks about that I believe in fairy tales, or fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us about dragons, but they tell us that dragons can be defeated. And this next song is a little bit about that, about being, you can be pulled in different directions by a lot of different things, but kind of finding your own spot and overcoming that. I like long intros, so.
dealt a slow hand. Now he's trying hard to understand all the reasons why he listened to a forked-tongued lie. They rarely ever change their minds. All they do is drop the line. Just cast your lot for us, we'll get it right. We thought it was the only option. Getting light from glowing trash cans, slanted everything they could say in a factual way. They said it was a simple plan. Believe us and we'll take your hand. Just cast your lot for us and we'll get it right. I can hear what they do to you. It's dragging us down. The line that you gave's only half of it that I've found. Well, I don't believe in their Lord. These loathsome feelings from lies I've heard all before. But now that it's standing in my door, hopeless reeling. I packed it all down before, and I wait. Some with hollow healers, and captured by the haptic feelers, carried with them every day, the intimate destructive decay. He did it just to pass the time. It rarely ever draws the mind. Just cast your lot for us and we'll get it right. Voices crying for attention, leaves us full of apprehension. Get at the seams of my lace, wearing signs of age on my face. But quiet moments all alone, melochromatic waves of tone, break over the shoreline and I get it right. Thank you. So that was the musical portion of this evening. I think Dexter's going to come over and we can chat a minute. But again, thankful to be here at Black Hills Vinyl. It's one of my favorite places in Rapid City. Spend a lot of time. They have a great collection of hard-to-find stuff, and as well as stuff everybody likes.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah.
That was really fantastic, man.
Thank you.
So, first thing I want to say is thank you to Jen and Michael at Black Hills Vinyl for letting us be in this space tonight. They went out of their way to set up a special area of the stage, and they actually brought their own lighting and everything.
Yeah.
And I just really want to say thank you to Jen and Michael of Black Hills Vinyl. I also want to say thank you. There's a couple new people here today that you can't see because they're behind the cameras making sure everything runs smoothly. But Kylie and Vicky are two of our new youth leadership committee members, and they're also the heads of our new AV crew, and they're running everything tonight. And I just want to give them a quick round of applause as well.
Indeed.
So, usually when we do these interviews, it's like, what are we supposed to talk about right now? But we play in a band together, and it's still not making it any easier to jump right into the conversation. For me right now, I've been having this conversation every last interview that I've done. My mask keeps coming down my face.
Yeah.
And so and people have mentioned that me moving my mask throughout the interview is distracting. And so I got this new mask and user tested it and ensured that when I talk, it's not going to slip down. And for some reason, the moment I sat in this chair,
Backfire.
because it's 2020, right? So I'm just going to keep moving my mask again. I'm sorry I have a huge mouth that pulls masks down. I can't avoid it. So
Huge mouth, big voice, but it's good.
thanks, man. So, I met you about a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, and you were just walking by the Cave Collective, is that right?
Yeah, that's how. So Sarah and I started going out for Sundays on brunch over at Tally's Silver Spoon, and while we were waiting for a table, we'd usually take a walk. We usually had 20 minutes or something to wait, and so we would just walk around downtown, and we walked by the Cave Collective building there on 7th, and I saw a poster up listed all the bands and shows. I'm like, yeah, this is the place. This is what I want to. I'd been playing music. I bought a new an electric guitar, an amp, and I've been playing at home, and I just wanted to get back in the music scene because that was throughout my whole life. Music's been a big part of my life, whether it was with family or with church or playing in bands. And when I'd kind of had Sarah and I had kind of gone through a phase and had kind of fallen out of relationship with our church and wasn't really connecting. And so it's music was the only thing that really meant something to me. And so walking by the cave and seeing that list of shows and just I could tell yeah, this is the place, this is where I want to go. So I think I'd messaged Natasha or somebody like that just on Facebook and kind of contacted, and she's like, yeah, come to the next show. And I met you guys, met Dexter, and it seems like we were friends immediately. Just started going to cave shows and then hanging out, and then we started playing music together, so.
Yeah, it happened pretty instantaneously. The way it actually ended up working out was Josh had a band, Josh Shepperd and the Sonic Tilt,
Yeah.
and I had a band, Sisyphus Happy, and we were both looking for a guitarist for our bands and realized that our songs were both really influenced by if you could find a way to mix early 90s alternative Sonic Youth and Pavement and stuff with the Americana folk of traditional folk storytellers,
Yeah.
which is kind of a niche market. And so
We're going to be super popular, don't worry.
that's right. Yeah, lots of cross-market appeal.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that you've told me a little bit about, and I'd love to know more about. So you mentioned you grew up at Pentecostal, right? Is that right?
Yeah, as a form of Pentecostal, it was non-denominational, but it was more or less Pentecostal, charismatic kind of church. Yeah, that's my background. Grew up, it was pretty hardcore, pretty conservative. Playing rock and roll music was against the rules. And as I grew up, my parents, they when I started playing music, they let it be known that they did not approve, but they didn't just stop it. They didn't say, no, you can't. They're like, we love you, but we don't like this. But, so I kind of went that route. And so that was really when I was about 15, is when I started playing guitar quite a bit. And playing in bands. And
Your father played guitar too,
yeah,
right?
so I learned guitar from my dad. My dad played guitar. My dad actually was a really good guitar player. He could play really well. And he sang and he wrote songs a little bit. And so like I kind of like he taught me the basics, but I kind of had an aversion. Like I did not want to play like him. You know, he played like Jerry Reed and you know, stuff like that, James Taylor, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. But no, he taught me to play the guitar, and I grew up that way, like family reunions, playing, you know, 10 guys, and my grandma played piano and stuff, so we'd all sit around playing piano, a lot of like bluegrass and gospel music and stuff like that. So I definitely have always had live music has been a part of my life. So
What I'm curious about is what I hear constantly is that the Black Hills, I mean, all of us who live here in the Black Hills know about the incredible power of this place. And people have known about it for centuries before we ever got here. And what I hear often is that influences our art. That whatever that thing is, it's speaking to the artists here. And it's what I think might account for what I say is a disproportionate amount of talent for a town of our population.
sure.
What I'm wondering is how do you feel, because you didn't play music for so long, and then you started writing music, so you've played music for a long time, but how do you feel that the Black Hills and living in this community has influenced your musicianship and songwriting?
Well, I think a good bit, like I said, well, part of it, when I, like, you know, met you guys and met at the cave, part of it was the pressure, like, well, we mostly just do original songs here. We don't have like house a bunch of bar bands that do covers, which no offense to that or anything, but it's like, okay, I have to write some more songs. So there was that impetus of just like the pressure of that. But also like for me, songwriting, well, no, I've talked to you a little bit about songwriting, like how you feel sometimes like inspired or like you're channeling something, like something kind of comes through. And for me, it feels a lot more, I mean, I get a little bit of that, but for me, it feels like work. Like I go digging, like I'm digging up something and I'll dig here today and maybe I find something, maybe I don't. But like, it's really just like a work ethic of trying to pull together something. And for me, it always usually starts with like the music on the guitar, and then I'll come up with a melody. And then usually once I have that, like I sit down and like write kind of lyrics to it. So I'm definitely influenced, like my songwriting is definitely pulled from experiences, like wherever I go, like meeting new people, going to new places. And so I definitely feel that from like the Black Hills, like there's a lot here to take in. The cultural aspects that are here, the Native American influence, and the Black Hills itself. And then even going out on like your guys' property with the cave, like it feels kind of like a sacred space. Like there's kind of an energy or something there, which, and I don't get too woo-woo, but it's something it is palpable. You can kind of feel it there. Like it feels like a special place.
I do get pretty woo-woo. And that it's something that I've, you talked about how I feel the creative process is channeling.
Mm-hmm.
Running the Cave Collective is actually kind of similar in that I don't feel like it's something I'm consciously doing. I feel like that power, that sacred thing is using me and by extension this community and all these amazing people to create something that could heal.
Right.
And that's why I feel like this is so important, is it's like, getting art out is good. Making a living wage for artists is important. And as an artist, I'm all about that. But as a human being, I feel like our society really needs art more than ever.
Right. I definitely feel that. And well, I think that's the job of artists and storytellers, is to kind of push that. Because if you look, that's kind of what, at least from my perspective, like that's what separates us from animals. Like we develop some kind of consciousness, and I don't know which was first, but we also then develop like language and to communicate, and to like, that's what's propelled us as a dominant species on this earth. And so very early on, like you need to communicate information and ideas that are important. And so I think that's how like stories evolved, like with language, was you had information. You know, it used to be dangerous to like leave the campfire and go out into the woods because there was a lot of dangerous stuff out in the woods, right? And so you had to, it was easier just to, rather than just tell someone, you needed a little bit of subversive idea to get that to stick. And so that's where I think stories, and then especially like music, gets those ideas to come across. So that's what I love about music is like, and I've talked to Dexter about this, like we kind of write songs and they're like kind of glimpses of our life or memories and a little bit of maybe wisdom or message that kind of comes across. And it's like a folklore. And that's what I was kind of where our band name comes from. And I was like, oh, this is a folklore, but it's a modern folklore. And Dexter's like, yeah, that's it. That's our band name. And I'm like, yeah. But I think that that's important because, and we kind of hide those things like in a catchy pop tune or something. Because if you'll find, you know, when you listen to music, you'll find yourself like humming a tune and like walking down the street and you're singing it and you don't really even know what you're singing, you know, like, but all of a sudden you're like singing the words. And so then as you think about it, like, okay, then the message comes and then it's up to interpretation. Like you take it however you want to make it meaningful to you. And I think that's needed more than ever now is, well, even like I know Kurt Cobain at one point, he said that he wanted to like write children's songs. And I think it's kind of in the same ethos that he wanted to convey something, to pass on something, and he was going to hide it, though, in these, like, you know, heavy rock songs. But, like, there's something there that you can really gain, I think, that can really empower people.
Yeah, I mean, I say things in my songs that I would never say to somebody without a bunch of loud guitars around me.
Exactly.
Obfuscating the message. There's a lot of protection and all that noise. Yeah. Something that you and I talk about a lot is storytelling. You talked about what divides us from animals, and humans are storytelling creatures. We view our lives, we view the lives of others, we view current events, everything in narrative format. And you see it more and more. That the media or the powers that be or special interests or whoever it is are trying to manipulate that to shift the narrative in their direction. And artists in some way kind of serve as a counterbalance against that. What do you feel is the relationship between art and storytelling and music and the responsibility that artists have to society in that regard?
Well, I mean, it's kind of cliche, but I mean, the very basis of it is to tell the truth from your perspective, right? And so when you do that, when you put that out into the world, you know, it doesn't mean that it's the truth, or it doesn't mean that someone has to take you. But to me, it helps like set a boundary. Like to me, like it's almost like society is walking through this like a dark cave, and the artists and songs and storytellers and stuff, they're almost like bats use echolocation. They're kind of putting out the feelers, like this is where I see the edge and this is where I see this thing, you know? And so to me, it's really the people on the fringe that have like helped determine the boundaries and the guidance of society. Like, and I think without them, like we would just wind up, run into the walls or falling into pits. Like they're the ones that kind of help us make our way through the darkness.
I feel like art for a lot of people is a lot like therapy. Yeah. And this is something that, like, I mean, I know when I was 16 and I found My Chemical Romance, that was life-changing for me. Right. Like, knowing that other people felt the way that I did, and, like, it's not high art. It's not fancy. It's pretty from a point of view. But that's the purpose of these songs is, like, art really does save lives. Yeah. And I think nowadays it's so hard to know what to think of anything. And with all of the constant content overload, especially now when we're stuck at home and we're just scrolling our social media all day and just getting that narrative fed to us over and over, I really find music and art refreshing because it taps back down to something so much less confusing. Right. It's a primal thing, and being that it's simple. And I guess what I'm wondering is, I'm not exactly sure how to articulate this, but do you find that you feel a sense of Are you trying to be heard when you perform music, or are you trying to let others feel heard?
No, well,
Or
it's
both?
a mix. Like, I mean, I want to be heard. I want people like, to enjoy the songs and stuff that I write. But I think most of it's honestly for me, because like, I don't see myself as a really articulate and deep thinking guy or whatever. Or maybe like it's hard for me to like. I think art and music, like it's a tap into the subconscious a little bit, and like for me that's a hard barrier to cross. And so like when I get involved in music or like songwriting, it kind of helps show myself. So it's reflective for me in that way. And I do it because like it's also, but like when you perform and perform for people, there's a connection to me. So for me, it's that connection. It's like, okay, this is something that's reflected in, myself or something that I've been thinking about in some way. And when the audience kind of joins in with that, it makes it feel more like genuine, like I'm kind of affirmed or something by it. And so I don't know, maybe that's a selfish thing, but like it's as much for me as anything. Like I don't feel like I have some important message. Like I'm a little bit old enough now that I'm like, okay, I can pass on a few hints of wisdom or maybe put things in perspective, but I don't have any like aspirations that like, yeah, you need to listen to me and like, you'll gain all this wisdom if you, but it is something that I want to share with people because I feel that's the way I can be intimate with people where in regular conversations and things, if I don't feel maybe that connection.
I think the people just want to know that they're not alone in things.
Yeah.
Both the artist and the audience. They just want to have that moment where they go, oh, you too?
Yeah.
And it can be about anything from just struggling with your paying the bills or relationship issues or your car breaking down. Like, I think that's why so much music is, you can have a whole range of emotions. And it for different days, depending on what you're feeling, you listen to different things.
Right. And I love how, like with music, how it's, you can take what you want or what you need. I think especially what you need from it. Like I know one of my favorite bands is Granddaddy. And they're not like a big deep band. They sing songs about like robots getting drunk and being sad. And but it makes me feel good. It's like, yeah, that's what I needed, And even if it's not the direct message, but the feel that comes from it, I think that can transmit to people and especially take what you need. So like that really helps me along.
So at this point in the evening, I'd like to extend it out to the audience. If anybody in the audience has any Q&A questions, and before you answer anything, I just ask that you give me a second to just repeat the question back
Sure,
for the audience online. Does anybody have anything they'd like to ask Josh about his story and song?
We're good. Yeah.
It's a big, quiet room. Usually there's like 6 hands that go up at once. Oh,
Top three. Oh, man.
So we're Black Hills Vinyl, and I think it was Michael called out from the back in a moment of very keen product placement. What are your top 3 favorite records of all time?
Oh, man, that's really okay. So I'm going to probably have to go with Neutral Milk Hotel, Two-Headed Boy. Or, I mean, in the Airplane Over the Sea, excuse me. And I'd probably go Elliott Smith, Figure 8. And then, oh man, it's a huge toss-up. I don't know if it's between Granddaddy, A Software Slump, and probably something from the Beatles, like Revolver or Sgt. Pepper's. Like,
I was really hoping you were going to say the Beatles, specifically either Revolver or Sgt. Pepper. And I think this was a factor when we decided we wanted to form a band together. We were talking about our favorite albums, and Neutral Milk Hotel, and Granddaddy, and the Beatles, and all these bands that don't really have a lot of overlap. Just coming up.
They do for me. I hear in all my favorite music, like I hear the Beatles in all my favorite music. If it's Elliott Smith, if it's Wilco, if it's Granddaddy, like I can hear the Beatles in all of that. So
that was my mother-in-law, Cave Mom, Dana, the other day. Somebody was asking me what kind of music our band plays.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you get asked, it's easy for someone else to answer that question, but, we're pretentious artists.
Yeah.
So when you get asked that, you're like, well, it's kind of like, it's got the alternative folk thing, but there's also some noise, and it has some of that, like, post-hardcore influence, and you get all into it. And I was stumbling over words trying to find the right way to tell them what
Right.
my music sounds like. And Dan just walks up and is like, "It's the Beatles." And that might have been like the highest compliment I've
Yeah,
ever received in
for
my
sure.
life.
The Beatles with a twinge of Sonic Youth in there.
Yeah, just a noisy, fuzzed out Beatles. That's
You know, it's funny, like, so this is, if my friend Adam is watching this, props to him that he was the big Sonic Youth fan. Like, and I listened to Sonic Youth, and I developed a taste for it, and really, I liked him quite a bit. But then it was like writing these songs, like, it's like, after it wasn't intentional, but after writing them, especially on, most of these are performed on electric guitar with a little bit of fuzz and noise. And I was like, oh, I see. Yeah, I've listened to a lot of Sonic Youth and Pavement and Built to Spill over the years. It's like that came through more than I really intentionally designed. So, but that's no problem for me. I like all that stuff.
I don't really have a problem with the whole duplicating your favorite things.
Yeah.
When going back to Kurt Cobain, he said when he was recording Nevermind, he was just trying to rip off the Pixies.
Yeah.
And it is like the most successful alternative album of all time, and the Pixies never saw near that success. So I agree that we should find a band that was moderately successful and just harp on it and rip it off, and then find commercial success through our copycat behavior.
I'm down. As long as we're playing music, I'm all right.
That sounds good to me. So speaking of playing music, it seems kind of disingenuous for me to ask this because I know what's next. But usually I close out these sessions by saying, "What's next for Josh Shepperd?"
Well, most of my efforts are going into modern folklore right now. We have a pretty good catalog of songs, and so I think the next thing is we want to try to record, and then see where that takes us. And hopefully that next year COVID will be relegated or taken care of, where we can maybe have a little more possibilities to play more shows and maybe take some little mini tours or something. But that's definitely the next step.
That's one of the really hard things. We were talking about this, I think, yesterday, about a lot of bands you keep on hearing, yeah, we're going to be touring next summer. You know, if we get a vaccine and things lift up, we're going to be touring next summer, which is a nice idea. But usually if you're booking a summer tour, you're doing it around now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing with like playing shows. We've talked about when we're going to play shows again. Are we doing masked only shows? Are we not doing shows at all? Are we just not going to try and fight the flow? It's really hard to make a judgment call. And I was definitely going somewhere with that. But what I'm curious about, so we've talked, do you want to like share maybe about some of our plans? We talked about like a mini tour.
Yeah.
Like in the region?
Well, we've talked. Well, I know you went down and saw a friend of our, Tom Knowlton, that plays in a band, Woodbelly, down in Fort Collins, and they did an indoors, socially distant show where they just had tables, where 3 or 4 people could sit to a table, and they were spread out, and so you had to wear a mask indoors unless you were at your table. And so we saw, like, okay, maybe this is possible. So we thought about setting up maybe some of those kind of shows here, like do something at Hay Camp or Custer Beacon or Deadwood Mountain Grand, some of those. And so we would like to possibly, for next summer, line up a couple of these shows with a couple of local bands, and maybe put on something we feel like is special for the people. And we've been working pretty hard at this, writing something, but we haven't played a lot of shows, and we really want to share that.
We've played
with everyone.
one show. We have played one concert.
We played Destin's thing too. So
You're right. We did play 2 shows.
And technically your birthday party. So it just depends on what you count as a show.
I'm just a liar.
Hey, this is, I have 3 people listen to me. It's a show.
That's fair enough. So I think we're getting about close to the end of the time. I really want to thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being my friend, my bandmate, sharing your art with me and all of us here together. Is there anything you want to close the evening out with?
No, just that I love the people here. I love you, Dexter. I love you, Natasha. And thanks for inviting me.
I love you too, man. And I also love Jen and Michael from Black Hills Vinyl, who made this space available to us. Thank you guys so much. We really, really appreciate
Good night.
it. So we're going to be next week with Anna Robbins at Harriet and Oak. Next Sunday at 7 p.m., Anna is a folk singer who has been playing in the area for a very, very long time. And if you have not taken the time to listen to her yet, you can remedy that mistake next Sunday at 7 p.m. at storyandsongseries.com. Thank you all again for watching with us tonight. Thank you to everyone who came out here and helped us put this together. Thank you to Josh, and thank you. Have a good one.
Good night.